कि you are a human being makes all these human rights available to you. ठीक है, so there is no extra qualification that you need कि अच्छा ठीक है आप हैं इंसान, पर अगर आप औरत होंगे तो आपके पास ये राइट नहीं है, अगर आप अगर दूसरे रेस के हैं तो आपके पास ये राइट नहीं है, अगर आप मुसलमान हैं तो आपके पास ये राइट नहीं है. There are no qualifications to this. Just because you are a human being, you will have these rights available to you. ठीक है? So human rights are based on the principle of respect for an individual. I am supposed to respect a person sitting in a wheelchair just as much as this person sitting in the wheelchair is supposed to respect a child, and that child is supposed to respect an elder, and that elder is supposed to respect me. So it's a circle, and we're all supposed to respect each other, irrespective of race, of color, of religion, of sex, everything. ठीक है? So that is the basic premise of human rights. The fundamental assumption in all of this is that each person is a moral and rational being who deserves to be treated with dignity. ठीक है? So हर इंसान, उसका presumption ये है कि चाहे वो मैं हूँ, आप हैं, कोई भी है, he is innocent, he is moral, he is righteous. वो अलग बात है कि उसके बाद वो किस तरह उसकी वो होती है, उसके आगे क्या qualifications लगती हैं, and then उससे अगर कोई rights दिए जाते हैं. तो जो basic presumption है वो ये है that we are all moral, we are all righteous, we are all innocent. ठीक है? So generally, now that we've gone over human rights, before I go on, I feel like, I think it's important for me to ask all of you, how would you define human rights? Do you agree with this definition? The fact that all of us are treated equally? The fact that just because we were born human beings, we have access to all of these rights? Yes?
Even if you are not moral, right? You still have human rights.
You still have human rights. Because the basic general presumption is that you are moral. ठीक है? And then the burden of proof is on the other party to prove that you are not moral. And when they are doing that, and if they prove it, some rights may be taken away from you. But at the same, you will have access to some rights, but कुछ rights वो शायद आपसे फिर ले लें उस time पे. But the basic presumption वही रहेगी. You had to say something?
I was going to say that just because like definition says say human rights are given to someone just because they are human, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will have access to human rights.
That is something that we're going to discuss later, and I think that is one of the fundamental issues with international human rights law. Because the presumption is कि आपके पास ये rights हैं, so that means कि आपको मिलेंगे. But that's not how it happens. So you have all these rights, but they're not effectively available to you. And if they're not effectively available to you, then what is the point of having these rights? Then these rights only become illusory. फिर वो आपके पास actual rights तो नहीं हुए ना. वो फिर आपके पास you have that idea of a right, and you have this idea that these rights will accrue to you, and you don't actually practically effectively have them. And that is something that I will be discussing later on. कि तब क्या होता है? Will it just because a country has ratified its treaties, just because a country says कि हमारे पास ये right है, but it doesn't actually give that right, does that mean कि they're complying with their international obligations? Does that mean कि वो लोगों ने वो human rights अपने citizens को दे रहे हैं? Just because they're saying कि we've put this in our constitution, we've made laws for this, that is not enough, unfortunately. So anyway, now we're going to move on to how international human rights law came about. कि ये जो human rights थे ये internationalize कैसे हुए? So this happened through an instrument which was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights was drafted by the United Nations, and this was after the Second World War. However, there were certain precursors to the UDHR. Precursors मतलब कि कुछ ऐसे documents थे जिससे ये जो आपका Universal Declaration of Human Rights है ये influence हुआ है. So वो कौन से documents थे? You had your Magna Carta जो 1215 में आया था. Then you had your English Bill of Rights, which is a document that dates back to the 1689, so that means the 17th century. Then you have the French Declaration on the Rights of Man and Citizen, and you have the US Constitution and Bill of Rights. So this is like जो Thomas Jefferson की drafting थी. So this is, you can see that these are all very old documents, and all of them sort of culminated into the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So I don't know if we're on the same page, but I feel like there is a problem here. Can you identify what the problem here is? Yes. So A, it's all Western. इधर कोई Oriental, कोई Asian, कोई और किसी और country का document नहीं है. And secondly, because these are all such old documents, they excluded people of color, they excluded women, they excluded different religions, different cultures, different societies. And nowadays, you need something which is universal. So these were not universal in their application. These were not modern in their application. and these were very, very Western centric.
Yes.
These were made by the Goras for the Goras.
It was actually made for them, not
It
for
was
the
made for,
universe.
exactly,
Yeah,
it
not
was
for
made
the
for
whole
them.
world, basically.
So at this time the idea was कि human rights is state specific. पाकिस्तान का अपना स्टैंडर्ड होगा, अमेरिका का अपना स्टैंडर्ड होगा, जर्मनी का अपना स्टैंडर्ड होगा, यूएई और सऊदी अरेबिया का अपना स्टैंडर्ड होगा. There was no idea of an international standard for human rights. However, when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came about, it changed this. But there is a problem there also. So now there are two things. एक है universalism और दूसरी है cultural relativism. So before going into this, does anybody know what universalism is? Yes. Universalism.
Universal means that around the world, all countries, or they are followed by the law or anything.
Yeah.
It's called universalism.
Basically. Anybody else? Yes.
The rights are universally applicable irrespective of the religion, race,
Yes.
color.
And then there's cultural relativism, which is a conflicting school of thought. So universalism holds that each human being possesses certain inalienable rights simply because he or she is a human. So हमने जो human rights की definition देखी थी, that is from a universalist point of view. Because just because you're a human being, you will have access to these rights. The conflicting school of thought is cultural relativism. And वो क्या है? वो एक assertion है that human values, far from being universal, vary a great deal according to different cultural perspectives. What do you think about this? So what this means is कि cultural relativists ये कहते हैं कि just because you are born in a different country, you are born to a different religion, you are born to a different set of parents, you will have a different access to rights and you will have different rights applicable to you. Universalists कहते हैं irrespective of where you're born, who you're born to, what you're born as, you will have these rights. What do you feel is the better approach? Yeah, but so इसके अंदर बहुत हमेशा there's always been a debate around this. I once attended a feminism class and उसके अंदर ये था कि they were just like, feminism is very different for people who are sitting in New York, going to a law firm, walking around with their coffee. And it's very different to somebody who's picking that coffee in Africa. They don't want, जो हम लोग कहते हैं ना कि we want to be included in the workforce. Thankfully we can say that because we have the privilege to say that. We have the privilege कि हम आए हैं और हमने इतनी पढ़ाई कर ली है और हम लोग यहाँ we can enter a decent workforce. But if you ask a woman sitting in Sindh right now, जिसको पूरा दिन काम करना पड़ता है while your husband sits at home and demands more water and more food and more facilities, if you ask her, she will not want to be part of this workforce. So feminism for her will be very different from feminism for somebody like me or somebody like you. So that, I think that sort of trickles down into, this has trickled down into a feminist theory also. And यही मसला है human rights का भी कि जो rights में I can say कि I need this right or I need the right to vote. A person sitting in Sindh, that's not a priority for them. They don't care. They don't care about the right to vote. They just want they want food. So उनके लिए उनके cultural और economic rights are more important. They really don't care about your civil and political rights because their priorities are so different. Sadly, they were not born to the privilege that we were born.
But if an individual not wanting that right does not negate him that right, right?
It doesn't because देखो हमने at the end of the day हमारे जो law है वो universalist law है. So a person sitting anywhere in the world, irrespective of their class, creed, religion, sex, will still have access to those rights. So now that, but is there anybody else who has something to say about this, about universalism, about cultural relativism? What do you think is the better approach?
I think universalism is a generalized law which is applicable to everyone around the universe or the world. And culturalism maybe is a part of that. And it can be applied under universalism in a way as well. So
that makes
universalism in itself is, I think, complete.
That makes sense.
But from whose perspective are we looking at universalism? I think that's also a form of cultural relativism that we're inflicting a certain ideology on people and expecting them to follow that altogether.
That also makes sense because the argument है कि this is not actually universalism. This is like Western culturalism because है तो उन्हीं का document, उन्हीं के laws, so and they're being applied to us. So there are these two strands.
So universalism का मकसद यही है कि आप तमाम इंसान को उनके rights को जो नहीं
It's
इसका मकसद हरगिज़ ये नहीं है कि जो कल्चरल राइट उसको मिला है उसको वो अपनी मर्जी से एक्सरसाइज कर रहा है, आप उसके साथ यूनिवर्सलिज्म को कॉन्फ्लिक्ट करके कहेंगे या आप ये दें या आप ये।
हाँ, that I agree with you, and I feel like you know, I mean, but the thing how they are conflicting is कि जब आपके international documents बन रहे होते हैं, so हमेशा theories आती है, उससे पहले like you know there are people who are busy drafting it, there are people who are talking about it, discussing it, debating it. So when they're debating it, they're just like हम क्या करें? हम क्या के लिए universal rights बनाएं? या हम culturally relative इस तरह से rights बनाएं कि Saudi Arabia पे अलग applicable हो, Pakistan पे अलग applicable हो, but they can't do that and they don't do that because how will you have an international standard of human rights when you say कि अच्छा हम सारे हैं different, how will this right apply to me? You can't, then you go back to square one, you go back to the pre-Second World War era कि उसके अंदर ये कि your countries are not intervening because they're just like this is not our problem, this is not an international issue, it's a national issue, let them deal with it. If they're killing Jews, let them deal with it. हमारा मसला तो नहीं है. Their issue was कि legal order बदल गया. That was their problem. Their problem was never that human rights were being violated, and that would become the issue again. अगर हम कहते हैं कि ठीक है cultural relativism होनी चाहिए, हर country के अपने अपने laws होने चाहिए, then कल को खुदा ना खास्ता another war like this breaks out. Countries are going to be like, how is this our problem? These are your own laws. You're applying them. You're abridging them. Not our problem. You know, unless and until it affects the international legal order. That everybody has a problem with, and when that happens, then everybody intervenes. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This was an aftermath of the Second World War, and the general principle behind the UDHR was that human rights did not have the status of international law, and therefore many states did not intervene. So as I said, उस time पे the idea was that this is not an international issue. It's a localized issue. Let them deal with it. ठीक है ना? मगर जब UDHR आया after the World War, when they realized that they need an international standard, because if they were to have this international standard, they would be able to protect the number of Jews that died. वो शायद ना उनके साथ हो, वो जो atrocities उस time पे commit हुई थी, वो शायद ना commit हो, if there was an international standard. And therefore, they believed कि एक हम लोग उस that thought culminated into this UDHR, and this was a landmark achievement. उस टाइम के लिए this was huge because they said कि finally human rights जो था उसको internationalize कर दिया. They took it from something which was localized to every country to something that became it became everybody's cause then, you know. And for the first time, the international community set down standards of human rights and freedoms that could be enjoyed by everyone, everywhere. So अब ये नहीं था कि अगर human rights का अगर bill of rights है और क्योंकि वो अमेरिकन है, then it will only be applicable to Americans. Now there was a document that would be as applicable to Americans as it would be to somebody sitting in Africa or somebody sitting in, you know, in parts of Pakistan or sitting in FATA or FATA. Generally, the idea behind the UDHR is the foundation. That respect for human rights is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So the idea is, the premise is, if you want freedom, and if you want justice, and if you want peace, then you need to have an international and a uniform standard of human rights. Okay? But the problem still remains. And what do you think that problem is? No, the problem is still the fact कि ये वही लोग थे जो वहाँ जाके लोगों को मार रहे थे. ये वही हैं जिन्होंने सारी atrocities commit की. These are the same people who were killing others, and on the other hand, they said, no, we're the ones who are going to write this for you. So I just feel it's a little rich of them. कि आप एक तरफ तो आप लोगों को मार रहे हो, आपने उनको कोई right नहीं दिया, पर दूसरी तरफ आप कह रहे हो, अच्छा नहीं, you know what? We're going to guard this for you. We're going to guard people's freedom. We're going to give them justice. We're going to give them peace. And from now on, we're going to be reformed. Great, good job, good on you. But the fact still remains that they are the people who committed all these atrocities, and I just feel that it's a little rich coming from them to create this document. But anyway, that is my personal opinion, and if you have another opinion, then sure. Yes.
Like the same happened in international humanitarian law, like they committed crime and they were tried.
वही होता है ना, crime भी खुद करो, लोगों को भी खुद मारो, but then बाद में आपको क्या चाहिए, you know what? We're going to be the saviors of humanity.
Plus, there will be a difference in your definition of freedom and
Exactly.
justice in every state.
कि जो हमारी definitions है ना, वो ही fundamentally change हो जाएंगी अगर हम इसको एक और perspective से देखें. So the definitions that they have given might not even apply to this to this day and age. But उसमें ये है कि we're going to discuss how human rights work later on and how it's supposed to be a sort of a dynamic, process whereby your rights are going to change, new rights will develop. But here we will read that later. For now, there are certain rights. There are just certain rights that I wanted to run through. There's the right to life, liberty, and security of person. There's the right to an adequate standard of living. The right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. The right to own property. The right to freedom of opinion and expression. The right to education. The freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And the right to freedom from torture and degrading treatment, among others. Now, if you go through these rights, what is reflected in this? At like a cursory glance, let's just go through them. What do you think is reflected from these rights?
Fundamental rights.
Fundamental rights तो है, but इनमें क्या ये Universal Declaration of Human Rights में जो rights enshrined हैं ये वो हैं. Where do you think these rights stem from? What is reflected in them?
The right of life, liberty, and security.
But what do these rights say? Okay, चलें.
ये वो weak points जो रह चुके हैं उनको cover
Exactly. So basically ये वही issues हैं, ये वो सारे issues को tackle कर रहे हैं जो उस time हुए थे. तो my argument is that had this Universal Declaration of Human Rights been drafted up after the War on Terror, this would have been a very different document. This would have contained very different rights. But because it was right after the Second World War, it addresses many of the things जो उस time पे नहीं. So your right to freedom of opinion and expression. This applies directly to the Jews. The right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. This is a right specific to the Second World War. The right to thought, conscience, religion, and the right to freedom from torture and degrading treatment. Because अगर ये right उन लोगों को applicable होता, they would not have suffered like they did. Anyway, when we look at all of these rights and when we look at other documents and the rights contained therein, there are 5 categories that these rights can be sort of filled into. The first is civil rights. This is the right to be treated as an equal to anyone else in society. So the idea is that, irrespective of what your profession, if you're a lawyer or you're a janitor or you're a doctor, whatever you are, you will still be treated as an equal. Okay? इसके अंदर आपका right of life आता है, right of opinion आता है, right of free speech आता है, race की आती है कि you cannot be discriminated against on the basis of your race, then on the basis of your sex or on the basis of your religion. So basically these are non-discriminatory laws and they're civil in nature. The second category are political rights. These deal with the right to vote, the freedom of speech, the freedom of information. So इसमें ये है कि your right to vote in election. All of us should have that right. Irrespective of whether you're a woman, irrespective of what you are, what you do, who you associate with, you should have the right to vote. You should be able to join any political party that you want. So if you're a PPP supporter, people should not judge you for it. If you're a PTI supporter, you should openly be able to go. Well, PTI generally बहुत ही ज़्यादा वो अपने आप को बड़ी openly अपना वो करते हैं. But so this basically the idea is that you should be able to express. The idea behind this is that you should be able to express your political affiliation. And this also gives you the freedom to live in an independent country and to be able to stand for public office. So any one of us should have the right to stand for public office. We might not, some people who are not born into privilege, they should also have the same right. Just because उनको बचपन में वो नहीं मिली थी amenities, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि they should be then excluded at every level. So these are certain basic protections that fall under political rights. The third are economic rights. इसके अंदर to participate in the economy, to be able to work, to be able to do desirable work, to be able to do work of your own choice. So one of the rights that इसके अंदर जो safeguard होता है वो slavery होता है. Because the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, all these precursors to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, none of them discussed slavery. So ये है कि the Universal Declaration of Human Rights gives you economic freedom. It gives you the freedom to choose your own work and to be able to choose your own standards of work also.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do these rights, did they evolve over time? Like first, or you can say the first generation of rights was civil rights, and then the second generation is to be political. Because at the time when the life and basic freedom of the person is in question, you cannot think of the economic benefits of that.
So that these are there are also there's a parallel category of rights also, which I will discuss with you later. कि absolute rights होते हैं, limited rights होते हैं, qualified rights होते हैं, और इन rights की balancing act होती है, ठीक है? कि क्या आपको right to life आपने will your right to life trump the right to freedom of expression, or will the right to be safe from torture be given preference over your right to life and liberty, or your right to due process, etc. So वो एक balancing act होती है that your state will have to, your state does that. Your state ensures that. Obviously, they evolved over time. They evolved over time. So this category, like we see today, was not. This wasn't there in the Magna Carta. एक इस तरह की categories नहीं थी. And ये categories भी हमने after jurisprudence on this, after a lot of scholarly and academic work, we've created these 5 subheadings. इसका वो charger लगा दें.
These rights are binding. Governments are bound to give these rights.
If a country has ratified the treaty जिसके अंदर ये rights होते हैं, then they are bound.
If these rights are not given,
So इनके reporting mechanism या all of these treaties उनके अंदर ही एक reporting mechanism होता है. उसमें वो बताते हैं कि अच्छा इसके अंदर एक reporting mechanism होता है. तो उसी वजह से आपने country reports देनी होती हैं, आपने उसमें हम बताना होता है कि अच्छा these are the laws that we have in place now to ensure that these rights are given. Then you have क्या कहते हैं, then इसके अंदर ये होता है कि individuals can go directly to the councils. They can send in applications to them. जो जिस तरह Human Rights Council है, जो United Nations के अंडर फॉर्म है, उसमें ये है कि you can send in an individual application also. The thing is कि देखो rights जो है ना वो आपका state ensure करता है कि आपके पास आपका international standard set down हुआ है. Countries have to ensure that you are given those rights. Sometimes, and a lot of countries, and sadly to say हम अपने इर्द-गिर्द देखते हैं कि ये rights लोगों को नहीं मिलते. But उसकी वजह से आपकी international reputation affect होती है. इसमें कोई punitive action कोई नहीं लेता. It's not like you're going to be fined for this, or your heads of state will be imprisoned for this. Nothing like this is going to happen. But it will affect your international reputation. It will affect your credibility, and it will also affect your status as a nation in the world.
But it doesn't be definitive because, for example, the Singapore में football की जो country है उसमें उससे बहुत ज़्यादा हुआ है उसमें बच्चे और young people involved है और बाकायदा बैन किया गया था पाकिस्तान में स्पोर्ट खत्म हो गई और उसके बाद जब पाकिस्तान ने मेक श्योर किया कि हम लोगों ने इतनी एज के नीचे बच्चे नहीं रखे फिर वो बैन.
So ये होता है ना कि इसका अगर एक कोई बॉडी नहीं है, there is no one body जो कहेगी कि अच्छा इसके ऊपर इतनी sanction लगा दो, ठीक है ना? There is no body that will sanction. There is no body that will imprison anyone. There will be punitive action in the sense कि आपका there are different schemes, there are tax schemes, there are जैसा EU की GSP plus scheme है, you will not be eligible for it, obviously. अभी हम लोग का review आ रहा है, so we should all brace ourselves and just hope to God that we regain and क्या कहते हैं हमें फिर से अपना status मिल जाए. But it all depends on how we ratify the treaty and how we implement them.
It's basically an incentive structure.
It's an incentive structure. So उसमें ये है कि you have 27 treaties that Pakistan has to ratify. Pakistan is ratified inside all of them. ठीक है? उसमें ये भी है कि you can't have a reservation in any of them. ठीक है? And I don't think Pakistan doesn't have any reservations in them. However, जो हमने last GSP plus हमें status मिला था was before Operation Zarfiyaz, or it was around the time of Operation Zarfiyaz, and it was before your military courts, it was before क्या कहते हैं, the moratorium on the death penalty was lifted. So I'm a little scared and a little apprehensive because we don't know exactly कि अब उसका क्या status हमें देंगे.
So my question is, so when they do this review, is it a one-sided review or we can argue our case as well?
So अभी just I'm going to go to the review framework इसके बाद. And review framework में ये होता है कि हम पहले before they tell us anything, we are the ones who give them our status. कि these are the laws that we have in place. ये आपका वो राइट था, हमने इसको इस तरह इम्प्लीमेंट किया, हमने ये लॉज बनाए हैं, हम ये कर रहे हैं एक्सेट्रा. आप उनको पहले अपना पर्सपेक्टिव देते हो, फिर एक एम्बेसडर एक पर्सपेक्टिव दे, हाई कमिश्नर पर्सपेक्टिव देता है, फिर एंड में उनकी तरफ से रिपोर्ट आती है. एंड जब उनकी तरफ से रिपोर्ट आती है then you can always argue back because it's supposed to be an interactive session.
Right.
Again, as I said, it's not supposed to be punitive in nature, or it's not supposed to be something, it's not supposed to be very judgmental. It's supposed to come as a cooperative procedure
Of course वो हम पे साथ तो नहीं करें ना, हम भी like if it's straight, it's like
Yeah,
big,
it's a two-way thing.
It's a two-way thing.
Yeah. ठीक है, and then finally there are social rights, rights to housing, education, health services, and then cultural rights. And this is cultural rights are the freedom of religion, to speak a particular language, to practice your culture. So yeah, these are the 5 categories of law of human rights. इसके बाद जब यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन आई थी, तो उसके बाद उन्होंने कहा कि we're going to form a new international bill of rights. ठीक है? So international bill of rights जो आया तो उसके अंदर first document was universal declaration of human rights. Then there was the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So we all know what civil and political rights are. हमने पढ़ा, ठीक है? And then उसके बाद आता है International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So ये तीनों documents together form the International Bill of Rights. And आज इसको इतनी importance देते हैं कि they say कि this is the Magna Carta of the modern age. इसका this is supposed to be a landmark achievement for modern day society to have this international bill and an international standard. So what is the ICCPR? The ICCPR is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It details the basic civil and political rights of individuals and duties that are attached to the state. So ICCPR दो चीजें करता है, ठीक है? वो एक तो आपको individuals को at a grassroots level rights देता है, ठीक है? So you, me, all of us, we have certain rights. And then on the other hand, it also imposes certain duties on the state. Because हम किससे अपना right लें? The state is going to give us that right. ठीक है? So the ICCPR has a mechanism, it ensures कि हमें अपने right को, हमारे पास एक rights हो, we should have certain rights available to us, and the state should ensure that these rights are made available to us, are actually effectively given to us. ठीक है? So it's a duty on one hand. एक तरफ से उन्होंने हमें कुछ दिया है और दूसरी तरफ से उन्होंने एक ड्यूटी इम्पोज की है, ठीक है? So it's a two-fold or a two-way sort of two-way mechanism, ठीक है? So some of the rights that the ICCPR contains, without looking at the board, can you tell me what these rights are since we've just discussed them?
Right to vote, right to vote.
Right to life, right to freedom, right to association, political party.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. So these are some of the rights: right to life, liberty, freedom of movement, equality before the law, right to presumption of innocence until proven guilty. ठीक है? So the ICCPR establishes the UN Human Rights Committee. ठीक है? ये जो अब आप बात करेंगे ना, this is that UN Human Rights Committee. ये जो है ये consider करती है reports जो state parties ने दी. ठीक है? तो पाकिस्तान जिस तरह हर 4 साल बाद हमें कोई report देगी, ठीक है? कि हमने क्या measures adopt किए pursuant to this treaty. ठीक है? उसके बाद this committee also receives and considers communications from individuals who claim that they are victims of violations. So if I feel like some of my rights have been violated, I can go myself to the UN Human Rights Committee and file an application there. So again, either we see a two-fold mechanism. What is that two-fold mechanism? कि एक तरफ आप state reports देते हो, ठीक है? आप उधर से इंश्योर करते हो कि आपके पास कंट्री रिपोर्ट्स आ रही हैं, हर 4 साल बाद एक कंट्री आपको बता रही है कि मैंने ये मेजर्स लिए हैं pursuant to this article. और दूसरी तरफ आप ये भी कहते हो कि अच्छा अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल है जिसका राइट इन्फ्रिंज हुआ है, then he should be able to access the Human Rights Committee.
और वो कैसे access करेगा?
By filing an application.
Why not international, well-established international human rights court instead of filing them?
That's the ECHR. वो जो आप I think इसकी बात करें वो यूरोपियन कोर्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स है.
Yes,
So,
no, I have a question. Like, there are regional courts in
Yeah.
America, Europe, and Africa. Initially, it's a regional court, right?
हाँ.
Why not international human rights court? Like, there is ICC,
Yeah.
there is the ICJ, which they can, so it should be an international human rights court, so it will have a valid.
They have a appellate jurisdiction. I agree.
So why not? Like, it's well established also.
And it is the responsibility basically the state that establish these court. For example, in Pakistan, the Majesty of Executive Majesty. This is very important to improve the human rights capacity in their domestic, under their domestic law. For example, in America, for example, they protect naturally the human rights, such like this. But in Pakistan, there is the Executive Majesty, Magistrate, we call it. That is something that improve, that protect the rights of citizen. Unfortunately, we don't have it in Pakistan, but it can protect if we establish these courts, and that the human rights condition will improve in Pakistan.
देखिए कोर्ट्स तो हम एस्टैब्लिश कर लेंगे, हमारे पास एक इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अंदर भी देयर इज अ ह्यूमन राइट्स सेल,
Yes.
ठीक है, उधर आपके पास पिटिशंस आती हैं. The thing is that you have a court structure, you have a system in place, but do people have access to that system? Do people have access to that space? मसला हमारा मसला, if I agree with you कि हमारा एक infrastructural मसला है कि we need more avenues for people, we need more appellate courts in the system, but more than that we need to get access to people at a grassroots level. कि सबसे पहले जब उनके साथ कोई वायलेशन हो तब वो आए ना, होता ये कि ग्रासरूट लेवल पे उनके पास कुछ नहीं होता. सो आपके पास जब से सबसे छोटे लेवल पे आपके पास you have these institutions in place but people don't have access to them, making them redundant. तो फिर बाद में जाके ठीक है आपके पास हाई कोर्ट है, आपके पास सुप्रीम कोर्ट है, पर आप सबसे एक बेसिक छोटे लेवल पे तो करो.
It's like a ladder that misses its first 3 steps.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I also feel that it is very important to have this infrastructure in place. I feel that it is very important कि हमारे पास एक court structure ऐसा हो. And मगर हमारे पास है भी. The thing is that we have that court structure in place. We have a human rights cell which is actually very well staffed, which if given the opportunity it would work very very well. But the problem is कि हमारे कुछ I guess inherent मसले हैं, कुछ मसले हैं that we are all very well aware of, but which are beyond the purview of my presentation, कि जिनकी वजह से हम थोड़ा fail कर जाते हैं, मतलब हम पीछे रह जाते हैं. But anyway, moving on, there is also the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So ICCPR deals with civil and political, ICESCR deals with your right to work, equal pay for work, right to strike, social security, right to an adequate standard of living, including food, clothing and housing. And then the first thing I thought of was Roti Kapda Makan, which is your PPP slogan. So what they're basically giving you are ICESCR rights. So, which we, by the way, we already have access to, because we ratified the ICESCR.
They are only claiming to be. They are not giving you.
They're claiming, and well, I mean, are there any PPP support? I don't want to make this political. Acha. So as with all the main UN human rights treaties, each nation that has ratified the covenant is required to submit periodic reports on its implementation of the rights contained within it. ठीक है? तो इन सबका एक सिस्टम है. They all have a system in place जिसके अंदर they have a mechanism जिसके अंदर आप स्टेट जो है वो बताती है कि हमने ये किया हुआ है, हमारा ये लॉ है, हमने इस तरह इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं. वो अलग बात है कि आपकी रिपोर्ट्स कभी कभार लेट हो जाती हैं, कभी कभार आपकी रिपोर्ट्स जो हैं वो गलत भी होती हैं, कभी कभार आपकी रिपोर्ट्स जो हैं वो लिटरली वो समझ नहीं आती दूसरी उधर जाके कि क्या लिखा क्या है इसके अंदर, with factual inaccuracies, legal inaccuracies, but again that is another issue. Some other human rights treaties are the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the Convention Against Torture, Inhumane and Degrading Punishment or Treatment, which is otherwise known as CAT, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. ठीक है? There are other conventions also, but I feel like these three are some of the most important, at least for me, because I feel like I'm all for the cause of women, for the cause against torture, and for the cause of children. So, what are the sources of human rights? I know Sir West went through this with you guys in a lot of detail, so I don't think it's necessary for me to do that, which is why I think you guys can tell me better what the sources of international human rights law are.
They're the same form of international law.
Yeah, and what are those?
Domestic law.
Conventions, treaties, customary international law.
Customary. अच्छा, तो customary international law के क्या sources होते हैं?
State practices for a long period.
Exactly, ठीक है? So दो चीजें होती हैं. International human rights law के दो sources हैं. एक आपकी treaties होगी, एक customary international law हो गया. So treaties क्या होती हैं? They're basically agreements by states that they would be bound by particular rules. Treaties can take any name. They can take the name of a treaty, or a covenant, a charter, protocol, convention, accord, agreement. There are many names for it. ठीक है? But they will all have the same legal effect. Treaties are considered harder law. ये soft, like वो hard law और soft law के बीच में जो होते हैं, these are considered hard law. ठीक है? They're legally, why are they considered hard law? Because ये legally binding होती है. जब आप ratify करते हो, then you are legally bound by it. फिर अगर आप वो right नहीं देते, या फिर you don't comply with it, then you can be held answerable. And then, what is customary international law? So customary international law is unspoken. Just the treaties तो आपका लिखा है ना, it's right in front of you. You open it, you know exactly these are your obligations. Customary international law is something that you discern through practice. ठीक है? So rules derive from the consistent conduct of states acting out of the belief that the law required them to act that way. or the general and consistent practice of states. And but with customary international law, it must be derived from a clear consensus among states. ये नहीं हो सकता कि आप जो आप वर्किंग नहीं है तो है ही customary international law. What is your basis for this? You then tell them that, you know, there's a consensus between states. So no one state can come up and be like, oh, you know what, this is also a part of customary international law. Is that cheap?
But at the same time, don't you think it's like a gray area? It gives. I mean, customary law in the Western Hemisphere might be really different than how it's practiced
Exactly.
in the Oriental side of the world.
Then we are back to our first debate.
Right.
And that debate over universalism and cultural relativism.
Right.
कि customary international law जो आपका develop हुआ है वो किस perspective से develop हुआ? But I feel like if anything, customary international law के अंदर हमें वो एक window मिलती है. We get that slight window to be able to express our own cultures, to be able to express our own religions.
Right.
See, because it's nothing in writing. It's not something कि
Right.
किसी 6 मुल्कों ने बैठ के कहा कि अच्छा अब हम लोग जो है ना we're drafting this or we're making the standard. You know, it's something that comes about as practice. So, इसके अंदर you have that element, you have room for that element of cultural relativism.
So lawyers can argue their case.
Lawyers can argue their case in any situation.
Acha.
Lawyers are trained from the very beginning to argue every single situation given
Right.
to them. तो वो तो मसला नहीं, ठीक है? But sources of customary international law, general practice हो गया, फिर use cogents हो गया, something that I always have trouble pronouncing to date. But yes. So now that we have that,
Just one question, sorry. About the customary international law in relation to human rights, can you give me examples?
what example do I have? The thing is, I think like with human rights, most of them have actually been
Right
there.
to religion.
Capital
नहीं, but
punishment.
right to religion जो है वो आपका आगे नहीं, capital punishment तो वो होती है ना, meditation
Fair
होती है, right to
trial,
life.
fair trial, Sharia interpretation.
Fair trial भी आपका आ जाता है CCPR. So the thing is कि mostly with international human rights you will find that it is found that you will find them in treaties and you will find them in the laws. Because इसके अंदर हमेशा specialized होती है, limit के अलग हैं, race के अलग हैं. So most of them are there.
Treaties, do they make customary law then? They don't.
नहीं, so there are basically
International customary law.
हाँ, तो देखो एक treaties है, ठीक है बात. And then if there is something which is not in the treaty, and then you can say कि अच्छा, you know, all of us had a consensus, and we all for so many years, for a number of years, have used this as practice. So then that automatically becomes, then that kind of fills in the role of treaties. ठीक है? So ये दोनों एक दूसरे को supplement करते हैं.
Religious things.
Like I-
Religious things, but then the thing is that all of them are already enshrined in your treaties. So with international human rights law, I feel like your treaties have gone very far in this. Your treaties have covered the 5 categories that we went. They cover almost all the rights that a person can think of. You know, जो नहीं है, वो फिर उसमें आपकी reliance आ सकती है on customary international law. But now that we've done with that, let's just move on to how human rights work. So you know, somebody was asking me about, I think one of you were asking me कि like, you know, अगर एक right है जो अब available होगा जो पहले नहीं था. So the whole idea behind human rights is, and international human rights is, that it has to be dynamic. It has to be constantly changing. So you know how back when the Bill of Rights was made, or back when even the UDHR was framed, you didn't have the right of privacy or of the internet. Why? Because you didn't have the internet then. You know, so the idea is कि ये एक evolutionary process है, ये ever-changing process है. As new things come up, there will be new rights. There will be a new framework for it. So, and that I think is one of the best things about international law generally and international human rights law specifically. The fact that it keeps changing. The fact that it's such an organic system. Because you can't limit your rights. You can't be like कि अच्छा 1948 में ये document आया था, इसके अंदर आपको ये rights मिले थे और अब आपको ये rights मिलेंगे for the rest of your life. Rights will change. The circumstances will change. Things will change. Ideas will evolve. Minds will evolve, and therefore rights will also evolve. You know? Ji?
Is the question is answered, like we can answer like one of the state who haven't signed any of these human rights treaties or conventions. So
वहाँ customary international, वहाँ आप कहोगे, हाँ, exactly. So जहाँ जिस तरह सऊदी अरेबिया ने नहीं किया, वहाँ आप ये argue करोगे कि no, this is now part of customary international law and you are bound by it, despite the fact that you have not ratified that.
Can a country argue कि ये मेरा सिस्टम नहीं है, 10 और countries कर रहे हो तो
मगर देखो सिस्टम ऐसा है ना customary international law का, principles ऐसे हैं customary international law के कि they can argue this. But जो counter argument would be होगी वो ये होगी कि अभी the way the world is right now, there are 180 states who are all applying the same law, who are all, following a certain practice. You can't be the only one who says, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do this. This is not my custom. This is not my practice.
So my question
Case
is,
law we can cite advise the opinion of a slip where ICJ
Yeah. Yes.
2004 advised
GGG.
opinion of a district. So ICC.
ICJ.
ICJ was a but CRC
Yes.
and other convention ICCPR and ICESCR they were cited by the ICJ like Israel must protect
Protect.
its
Yes.
rights.
Yes. That will form part of it.
so my question here is, for example, beheading is a common practice
Yes.
in Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Now, capital punishment is something that, okay, a lot of countries do. US में भी capital punishment होती है, हमारे यहाँ पे होती है. Okay, Europe में नहीं करते वो लोग. So now, US will be like, okay, I'm instead of beheading somebody, I will get them like we inject them with some whatever source or whatever. अब इसके अंदर, for example, Saudi Arabia में अगर beheading हो रही है, so how does that the customary international, since they're not signatories, the customary international law इस हवाले से क्या होता है फिर कि, for example, let's take the issue of capital punishment.
Yeah.
The EU, the European Union, ये सारे they don't practice it. US is the only developed nation that actually has capital punishment. And it's maybe most states have outlawed it. It's usually the states in the south that have it. I know. तो फिर उसमें how do you like say कि यार कि इसमें customary international कहाँ पे applicable होने लगे?
देखो आप तो नहीं पाओगे ना कि customary international तो applicable है. Don't quote me on this, but if you're a country like Saudi Arabia, then really nobody can take any action.
Exactly. That's
So
the
the
reality.
thing is, sadly for us, if you are Saudi Arabia, then you can continue to behead people and.
And if you're Iran, then the whole
world
world
will
will
look
against
on. It will be like, अच्छा ये हो रहा है, please stop.
So
But
all of
that's
this works on the incentive structure. If you can provide incentive for a country, then
What incentives do you provide to Saudi Arabia?
I'm saying
But
if-
like, I mean, like as an
you can
argument-
only force
How
it if you have incentives.
So that's always happens in international law, like because of economic reasons.
Yeah.
You have blind eye.
Exactly. But the thing is, in Saudi Arabia, your customary international law will be applicable. Customary international law की arguments उनको दे सकते हैं, आप उनसे कह सकते हैं कि the whole world is not doing this. We have all outlawed this. They continue to do it. They base it on Islamic principles, and they base it on principles of Sharia, and they justify it for it. And उनकी justifications are then taken seriously and taken by the international community and then accepted by them also. So generally, okay.
कैपिटल पनिशमेंट खत्म की जा रही है अपनी दुनिया में या बाकी अपनी दुनिया में, तो वो कोई कस्टम पे नहीं, कस्टम तो बहुत सदियों से चलता आ रहा है और वहाँ बहुत पहले से कैपिटल पनिशमेंट थी और प्रैक्टिस होती थी. और चूंकि वो उसकी वजह से बहुत सारे ह्यूमन राइट्स जो है वो वायलेट होते थे, इस वजह से लॉ इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया तो खत्म कर दिया. दिस इज नॉट अ कस्टमरी प्रैक्टिस.
It's not, but if anything, I feel like it's an evolutionary practice. See, because उनका भी customary है.
Evolutionary practice is not the source of it.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if you were to give it a classification, then I would call it an evolutionary practice.
Right.
The fact that you have outlawed big, capital punishment, violent and gruesome capital punishment, because अब वो times नहीं रहे, times have changed now, things are changing. The Europeans did this many years back because they were allowed to do so. They have with time gone through that process. They have evolved to that extent. उनके मुल्क उस point पे पहुंच गए हैं जहाँ उनकी priorities अब ऐसी हो गई हैं. They actually have the privilege to do this. But there are still countries that are still in the process of attaining that level of privilege.
And they demand that we evolve at the same rate as they have.
But मुश्किल होता है.
Of course.
We're at a different stage. We're at a different level of progress. And that is why it's very important for all of us to know that human rights is evolutionary.
Exactly.
एक डायनामिक और ऑर्गेनिक स्ट्रक्चर है उसका, वो चेंज होता रहेगा, ठीक है? एक टाइम आएगा जो you never know, Saudi Arabia भी out of okay, we have gone through this process of evolution and now we are at that stage where we will outlaw this, ठीक है? And more importantly,
Just question that if Muslims are killed in India for slaughtering of cows,
Yeah.
some animals that are prohibited in the religion of Hindus, so for them it is like a custom, but
for them, मगर देखो that's not international customs. That is where this comes into play. वो उनका अपना कस्टम अगर है भी, this is not international custom, this is not general practice. Who in the world does this? कौन जाके दूसरे लोगों को मारता है because आपने जो है एक गाय को ज़बह किया? So you know, I mean, that argument will not work here in this situation.
But the people who got sick,
actually, that's a belief intolerance.
That's not that. Yeah, that isn't part of their religion. It might be part of certain social, like a certain cultural belief, and that too of a very small segment of society. But it's not like, you know, it's not like the belief of the entire nation or the belief of a group of nations.
So that is basically the violation of human rights in India. And who is supposed to, like, can any other Muslim country fight against India for that? Or can a single individual that is not given the due right can
So
go and
single
fight?
individual जा सकता है
HRC.
human rights, हाँ HRC exactly. Single individual जो है वो HRC जाएगा, वो अपनी application वहाँ देगा.
But who is supposed?
Local offices होते हैं किसी country में या वो UN जाएगा?
I think local offices, okay, local representatives होते हैं, but they do have local
But don't you have
representatives.
to exhaust all your local remedies before that?
That I don't think. I don't think that's true for the Human Rights Committee. That is the case when you go to the ICJ or another international forum or even the European Court of Human Rights. But that's how it's different. European Court of Human Rights. ये एक committee है. ये committee बैठी है.
National Human Rights Commission recently Pakistan में बनी. Is it under UN या ये एक अलग body है? या
ये
UN की
so
committee
ये
क्या है?
एक implementing body है जो हम लोग जब जिस तरह हम अपनी जब स्टेट पार्टी रिपोर्ट भेजते हैं, so we say कि हमने अभी ये नेशनल कमीशन ऑन ह्यूमन राइट्स बनाया है, या हमने एक नेशनल कमीशन ऑन स्टेटस इम्प्रूवमेंट बनाया है, and we are doing this in pursuance of our obligations under these international treaties. ठीक है?
So what have the international committees done to give access to the individuals to go and fight against? Like, for instance, Gurleen Singh feels that she is not given the due rights. So how is she supposed to go and reach the UN offices?
देखो, it always starts from a local level. It will always start from a grassroots level. वो जाएगी, वो अपने उधर ही केस लिखवाएगी, अगर उसमें इतनी हिम्मत हो. ठीक है, पहले.
Also, they have those law banks and the law helpline as well.
Yeah. But so first you need to work up the courage. So when you work up the courage, then you call those helplines, you talk to those people, you go to court, you go to the police, you file a case. Then once you get the ball rolling, then देखो जब एक दफा ये चीज़ है कि जब यहाँ बॉल एक दफा चलना शुरू हो जाती है ना, it gains momentum. Once something gains momentum, then you automatically start getting access to all of this. You know, then somebody will suggest to her, you know what, go to the HRC. This representative sits at this office, I will file your application.
But in the developing countries where there are so many obstacles to get the ball rolling, how is that girl supposed to reach out there?
That's so ये
evolutionary process.
ये तो और ये हमारा मसला है. That is the problem that we're facing right now. That is the problem with human rights right now. And that is what I'm coming to. That these rights have to be genuinely accessible to people. You can't simply say कि एक बंदा है, he has access to court. But जब आप कह रहे हो कि अच्छा, you know what, हम लोग आपको legal advisor नहीं देंगे. The state will not pay for your legal advisor. That person does not have money for a lawyer. Therefore, then you cannot say that this person has the right to access court. How will they access court without a lawyer, without the money to access somebody? How will they access it? So therefore, you're actually not giving them that right. So for rights to be available to people, they have to be genuinely accessible. They have to be effective. जो मैं शुरू में बात करी थी, they cannot be illusory. They have to be very practical. They have to have grassroots implementation. They have to have grassroots effectiveness in order for you to be able to say कि अच्छा, you know what, ये right है, हमने इसको protect किया है और हमने लोगों को ये right दिया है. Simply saying कि हमने दिया है will not cut it.
So in the name of evolution, they are not giving the due rights to the people. So what are the international community done?
It's not in the name of evolution that people are not given their due rights. It's just the fact that we have certain structural, cultural, social barriers that hold us from giving people those rights. Something as I mean, there are so many examples. I mean, हम different societies होती हैं, उनके different ideals होते हैं. कुछ एक अगर कोई बंदा बात करने की कोशिश भी करता है, there are 10,000 people willing to lash back at that.
But having said that, it's not just the developing countries who are to blame.
It's
USA hasn't ratified CEDAW, which just goes to show, and CEDAW has given them positive rights from the states.
Yeah.
To give them the right, give the people the women a chance to go to these facilities, voice their opinion.
Yeah.
So it's not just a problem of developing countries.
I agree with you. This is a worldwide problem. I still think that it's safe to say that it's more prevalent in developing countries, unfortunately. But again, you know, we're still in that process. There will be a time when we will get to that stage जब हम लोगों के पास इतना privilege होगा, इतना वो होगा कि हम भी लोगों को ये सारे rights दे सकेंगे. People will have access to all these rights. So yes, I mean, unavailability. So these rights have to be genuinely accessible. They have to be practical. They have to be effective. So unavailability of legal aid for someone who cannot afford to pay for legal advice meant that in reality there is no access to court, even though that right exists in theory. ठीक है? So theory अलग और practice अलग. Practically वो right available होना चाहिए क्या?
For example, honor killing, even right now the law has been made in Pakistan that if someone did honor killing, he will be punished. But still in society it is happening.
Of course, यही तो मसला है. That's
लॉ
the
बना
issue.
देने से वो apply
No, exactly. देखो laws तो कितने हैं? These laws तो हजारों laws इतने हैं that protect women, that protect you from honor killings, that protect you from there's so many things that they protect you from. But बात ये है कि उनकी क्या practical application हो रही है? Are you practically being protected? Do you practically feel safe? Or is this all in theory? You know? And I feel like with this, with people like you guys, people who are educated and people who are really going out there and trying to make a difference, I think that all of us can contribute to this. And I think at a national level, we are the ones who need to bring in this change. We are the ones who need to bring in this wave of hope. If there is somebody who is being denied their right, or if there is somebody who feels that they have been violated, they should be able to talk about it. They should be able to they should be given the right avenue for it and the right avenue to address it. Because otherwise, वो right नहीं था आपके पास. आप बहुत कह सकते हो कि हमारे पास ये law भी है, हमारी constitution में ये कहती है, हमारे पास ये right है. You don't have that right if you can't access it. Practically, you don't have it. Not at all. Anyway, जो पहले कोई मुझसे बात कर रहा था about how the right of liberty will work with the right of fair trial and the balancing act जो मैं आप लोगों को समझा रही थी, वो ये 3 categories of law rights हैं. And we're specifically concerned with civil and political rights right now. Because on Thursday, I think I'm going to meet you again and I'm going to talk about the domestic challenges that we are facing. उसके अंदर हम इसकी काफ़ी ज़्यादा implementation देखेंगे ground level पे कि जो हमारी civil and political rights हैं, इनको किस तरह हम safeguard करते हैं, किस तरह protect करते हैं और कहाँ हम लोगों से ले लेते हैं. And how the state plays this balancing act in different situations in your counter-terrorism regime in specifically. So yes, there are 3 types.